it kind of makes relationships shallow in the sense that, you know, with greed you're always wanting for you know, you want to own things. So in a relationship, relationships are all about giving things, right? It's all about giving yourself, giving your emotions, giving your time to this. And so with greed, you're kind of you're kind of gonna hit something there, and it's gonna cause your relationships to be shallow because you're always gonna be looking for kind of what can you get out of this. And so we also talked about lust, which is, you know, not necessarily that there's anything wrong with enjoying life, with enjoying things, but that there are limits in life. And lust doesn't know that, though. Lust is indulgence without limits. It doesn't have boundaries. It just kind of does whatever it wants. And obviously, to combat that, we have to realize that yes, God has rules, though. So whereas the answer to greed was in giving, the answer to lust is in limits. Discipline, having boundaries for yourself, having boundaries for your future, having boundaries for what it is you're working towards. And obviously, lust is always going to doom relationships to fail every single time, because with lust, it's almost like a conquest mentality. You don't see people as people; you see them kind of as objects that can be used for your ends, to what is pleasurable. But with relationships, oftentimes it's not pleasurable. I mean, think about it. Marriage, for instance, yes, you know, there's the little parts like sex, but then there's these big parts in between those little parts of, you know, do you like each other as people? You know what I mean? I don't like anything that she likes. I don't like doing anything that she likes. And I'm not willing to budge to try and, you know, well, with relationships, it really doesn't work like that. So anytime that there's really a basis of lust, it's going to doom the relationship to fail. I'll kind of elaborate a little bit more on this. Let's say that there is someone who is wanting to get with this person, and you know they really enjoy each other and whatnot. But then they overindulge in the sexual aspects before they you know, remember the paradigm of the love commitment. They overindulge in the love aspect without the commitment aspect going up at all. And so then by the time that they finally decide to, you know, marry, you've got this this very taxed relationship, because the girl's going to subconsciously even realize that the man wasn't willing to wait for her. You know what I mean? And in the back of her head, and it's going to come up later, she's going to see herself as less of a person, maybe less attractive, that kind of stuff. That eventually will come back to bite the man in the butt too, because her insecurity will then be reflected onto him, and it'll cause this gap to broaden between the two, and therefore the relationship is going to have a whole lot more problems. Not necessarily that it will end up in divorce, but it will end up with a lot more problems than would have had they just simply avoided that aspect. So lust is a bad thing in the equation there. But what about pride? Where does that lead us on pride? You know, if greed is a desire to own rather than realizing that it's God's, and if lust is the desire to indulge without limits, just indulge, without realizing that God has rules, where does that lead us with pride? And first off, I want to kind of give a few different definitions. First off, an undue sense of one's own superiority is one definition. But pride isn't just that. It's also a proper sense of personal worth. So I mean, so pride kind of has, by the dictionary definition, kind of a broad meaning there. Also, pride can be defined as a cause of exaltation. For instance, let's say Charles is a great warrior that has saved many people's lives, right? And that's actually how he lost the ability of his legs. Then you could say that, you know, it's a pride, but it would be a well-placed pride, right? Well, that's dictionary definition. I'm not necessarily condoning that definition. I'm just saying that's the dictionary. But I would define pride in this way: putting self first, rather than realizing that God's the cause of everything, rather than realizing that our lives kind of revolve around God. It's this attitude that it's putting self first, which brings us to this other idea: is pride the root of all sin? Think about that for a second. Like, you don't have to answer, but just think about that. Is pride the root of all other sins? If pride can be defined as putting yourself first, doing things for self, then surely that's the basis for both greed and lust. If pride is putting yourself first, then surely you can see how that would lead us to all kinds of other things. Bitterness, gossiping, complaining, I mean, all kinds of other things based on this one thing. So it's definitely worth thinking. Do you guys have any thoughts on that before I move ahead?
Well, I mean, pride is what caused Satan to fall in the first place. You know, he set himself up as better than God.
Right.
So I kind of think it is.
Yeah.
You know, it all kind of stems from that.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other ideas, guys?
She had an idea, but she lost it.
Yeah, she did. So just a few questions here. Does power corrupt?
Not always.
Okay, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, there are situations where people use their power for a good thing.
Were you going to say anything else?
And it doesn't corrupt them.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Trump or Clinton?
yeah.
I'm just kidding.
No, I can't think of one right offhand.
That's okay. Because there's that saying, you know, absolute power corrupts absolutely or something like that. You know the saying. I'm sure you guys have heard it about how power corrupts. And so it's kind of worth noting because obviously people in the world have said it 100 times that power corrupts. But does power actually corrupt? Does anybody else have any ideas?
Well, the only person I can think of is Moses.
Okay.
I mean, like, he had, like, it seemed like ultimate power. You know, he had...
Ultimate power!
He was over all those people and had, in a way, you know, besides going through God, he was, you know, leading all these people and he could do pretty much whatever he wanted. So,
except strike the rock.
Right?
I'm just kidding. That's just a joke.
Well, we know from experience, like, you know, striking the rock and stuff, he did that before he had the power, you know, like with killing the Egyptian and stuff, you know. So it wasn't a pride thing that made him, you know, do different things that he did while he was in power. But
I didn't catch that last part. I'm sorry. Moving on. What else were you saying?
So I mean, like, power didn't corrupt Moses.
Okay. Was it? Who was in the Bible that was called really humble? Was that Moses or was that David?
They both were.
Yeah. So.
Moses was called when Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses.
Right.
God said that Moses was humble at that point.
Right, and then, yeah. So I mean that's something. Any other ideas?
I don't think it does. I think all people are corrupt, and when you give them power, they have the opportunity to
corrupt
use that.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you add any more to that?
No.
Like, can you elaborate a little on that?
Like, okay, so say like you're given a position where you know are handling finances or something,
Right.
And like it's available that you could skim off the top or something. Like, I don't think that power of being over that would corrupt you, but I think people have that nature in them.
Yeah.
I don't think the power has anything to do with it.
Good thoughts. Really good thoughts. You guys have any other ideas on that?
But at the same time, I think it kind of depends on the person too. Some
Okay.
people take power at their advantage.
Like Darth Vader.
And they see power as, okay, I can do anything. And then that can sometimes make them corrupt.
Okay.
I think it just kind of depends on how they use their power.
Okay. Interesting. Any other ideas?
But that same person, or that same position, somebody else could get in it and not abuse it.
Right.
So it's not the power that is to blame, it's the person.
unless you're a fan of
Ronald Reagan was the best president ever. So.
What are we talking about? Hold on, I'm gonna let you finish. But first, I just want to say Ronald Reagan was the best president ever.
Thank you. Always talking about Ronald Reagan.
Oh my gosh, I actually lost my train of thought. From that. We were talking about. She said the thing about the thing. Okay, yeah, I was just gonna say it's a stupid joke. So no big loss. We're moving on. At least I was able to retrace my steps and realize that we can still move ahead, guys. This is good. Second question is pride, not power. Is pride inherently evil, or can it be good? And what I mean by inherently is pride itself evil, or can it be good? And we are putting a distinction between power and pride. Okay, power would be like the ability to do something, and pride would be more of the attitude, I guess, behind it. Yeah. Good enough for now.
Well, I don't think like if say your kid does a good job at something and you're proud of your kid, I don't think that's a bad thing.
So, all this time I've been trying to put Micah down for nothing? Just kidding. Okay.
But like when you're a guitar player and someone tells you did a great job, I think you need to just be set straight.
Oh, there's so many things that I want to say that I can't because we're recording. Okay. I can't say that either. Okay. Okay, any other ideas, guys? No? Well, while you guys think about whether you have something to say, I'm going to kind of go off this. Now, when you say proud in the example, proud of the child, like, what are you talking about? Like, are you talking about happiness for the child's success, or are you talking about pride in the sense that your child did this?
No, like happiness in their success.
Okay. Okay.
Like, let's say Micah poops in the toilet. How happy are you?
So happy.
So happy.
But I'm not happy for him. I'm happy for us. Because that saves us so much time and money. Okay. So any other ideas, guys, on this? Hey, don't be fusses. No?
I think,
Wait
going off of
until I'm
what
going.
Chuck said, I think the word pride has been kind of worked like the word love has been worked, you know? Like,
What do you mean?
I love pizza.
Ah.
You know, do you honestly love pizza? Or, you know, I'm so proud of you, Mike.
No, you don't understand. I do love pizza.
So, I think we use the word proud in place of a word we don't have.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
You know what I'm
So
saying?
you're saying put a distinction between pride as, you know,
The true definition.
happiness, I guess, or whatever. That word that we don't. Okay,
Right.
whatever. And from the negative connotation of pride.
Right.
So, okay, if we do that, does that negative aspect of pride still have a good side then, or no? If you do want to put a distinction between those kinds of pride.
I would say no.
No?
Yeah,
I
that's
don't think so.
Okay. What do you think?
I would say no.
But Joel Osteen said all I have to do is believe in myself. Okay, so there are obviously some common expressions of pride that I think will be helpful in our discussion. And the first is actually one about a child. My child is the best at, not necessarily noting that your child is good at something, but it's that attitude of
That soccer mom mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, that one's not good. Another example would be, I don't go to church because I've been hurt or there are hypocrites there. It may seem like this excuse is based out of just simple self-preservation, but if you think about it, it's actually more rooted on pride. The thing about, well, I get to choose what I want. Right.
Yeah.
They're hypocrites. I'm not. There's no hypocrites anywhere else, just at church. Now, I realize that in church, people are held to a higher standard because they are... you expect them to be more of God's people, and God's people should probably not be hypocrites. I get that. But at the same time, that in and of itself isn't an excuse to not be doing the right thing yourself. You know what I mean? What we try to do is we try to justify our stupidity with other people's stupidity. Oh, they're hypocrites, so that means that I don't have to serve God. Okay, because why? So, I mean, it doesn't really follow, but it's one of those things that we do to... make ourselves feel better. But then also that I've been hurt at church before. Well, let's go back and look at that definition of pride right quick. Hold on. There it is. Putting self first. So, I mean, it's this idea that God's not the one who's deciding whether you go to church or not, right? That's you. And you have pride in your hurt. Which I didn't think could happen. But after a couple years of being an associate pastor, I realized, people can get prideful about their hurt. They're not willing to give it up to God. They're not willing to let it go. They're not willing to move and to grow as a person. They're prideful about their hurt. But then also, here's another opinion. I don't need your opinion. I'm right. Right? How many times do you hear this? All during the election, for instance. Clinton's the person who needs to be president, and you're stupid if you don't agree with me. Trump is the person who needs to be president, and you're stupid if you don't agree with me. It's like, okay, well, I'm glad that families were ripped in twain because of a 4 to 8 year term. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really make that much sense when you think about it, but still, it's this idea that, I'm right because I'm right. This is how I do it. What is it that Pastor said just last Sunday? It's right because that's the way I do it. Okay. And then here's another expression, a common expression of pride. They were wrong too. Yeah, buddy. You see this happen a lot in marriage, especially. Any long-term relationship, you're going to see this one happen a lot. Because after day in and day out of dealing with, another person's crap, you use it as an excuse to say that your crap isn't as bad. Do what?
You use it as an excuse for your own crap.
Right, exactly. And so there's this idea... What does it matter if they were wrong? You know what I mean? Like, you do what's right because that's who you are, not because someone else gave you an excuse to do what was right. Because then you're just reacting to somebody else. If you do what's right regardless because that's just who you are, see what I mean? That's just who you are. See what I mean? Are you a bitter person? Well, it's like this. When you get in a fight with your spouse, do you forgive them? No? Then yes, you're a bitter person. It's that simple. And Pastor says something about this. It just slipped my mind. What was I going to say about this? It's something he says all the time. Crap, dang it. I wish I could remember. I was about to say it too, and I just lost my train of thought. The sin of power is in lust and greed. The power becomes corrupted as soon as humans enter into the equation, like Chuck was saying, because we have issues like lust and greed. See what I mean? It's mine, and I want more. So then, when somebody gets a position of power with the attitude of it's mine and I want more, see what I mean, lust and greed, then it's going to be corrupted pretty fast. See what I mean? And regardless of what it is, pride is behind, as we talked about, is behind at least most sins, if not all sins. And so with that being said, everybody has struggles with pride, at least in some area of their life. It's not a matter of do I struggle with pride? It's a matter of
where.
how exactly. Where do I struggle with pride in my life? You know what I mean? And it's being willing to say, you know what? That's what he says. That's what Pastor says all the time. The same pride that gets you into sin is the same pride that keeps you in sin. That's what he always says all the time. You remember that, guys? It's this idea like when here's an example, okay? Chuck offended me, so I'm going to shoot my mouth off and do something really stupid. And it's going to turn out that Chuck didn't mean it like that at all. But I'm not going to go and apologize and rectify the situation because the same pride that caused me to blow up on Chuck in the first place is keeping me from correcting the situation. See what I mean? Because it's the same pride in us. Do you think that the pride that got you into a situation, all of a sudden, it's just gone? No, it's still there. So it has to be slain like a beast. So, obviously, we can see how it's not necessarily the power, at least in most situations, so much as is our heart. And as we've talked about before, there's a human factor in everything. I talked about this when I said there was a pastor who was getting ready to retire, and so he got another pastor to co-pastor with him. For 1 year, he served as a senior with the other guy's associate, then the next year they flipped over so that the church could go through the transition. But as the other guy became the senior, he started doing things the guy that was there first didn't like. And so he took the church back, and there was a huge church split caused from the whole thing. Why? Because of the human factor. Here's another example. Oftentimes people will try to do business with the church, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I'll sell it to them at a reduced price. And then eventually it becomes, well, they just buy it from me, and the price goes up. And then eventually it comes, I'm selling to them at an inflated price. And then eventually it becomes, well, I need the sell anyways, see what I mean? And it just kind of gets, why? Because of the human factor. It's not that person's a terrible person because they fell to pride. No. They fell to pride in this area that was very noticeable, but don't let that get in the way of what you're about to do that's stupid. See what I mean? We all struggle in different areas. And so the real enemy really is pride. It's all about me. There's no forgiveness in the issues. It's just, my life revolves around me. The things that I do, it all revolves around me. Boy, I tell you what was humbling was today I went over to Sonny's house and saw him. What do you say in that kind of a situation? You know what I mean? Hey, you really have no answers, and you know what? That's not a bad thing. It's okay to be without answers every once in a while, especially as ministers and as Christians, to just be there for people and not have answers. That's all right. You know what I mean? And it definitely does humble your pride. I tell you what, being around people and those kinds of things. You really want to humble yourself. Be around somebody on their deathbed. Oh boy, that's fun. I'm the final authority for my life. I don't check in with other people. I don't check in with God. Just me. And if you notice, we were talking about with tithes when we were talking about with greed. It's all mine and everything. But this also relates with that same area of tithe. I don't have to ask God about my finances because it's my finances. You see what I mean? It's not. It's no longer an issue about how can I serve God with this. So power plus the human factor equals corruption and pride. Recognize failures without shaming. Listen to criticism. Be accountable and disciplined. Okay, let's take this apart. First off, recognize failures without shaming in yourself and with others. Recognize failures. See what I mean? If I realize that Chuck has a problem in a certain area, I need to realize it so that I can make sure to not do things that will tempt him. See what I mean? Does that kind of make sense? If I don't have to shame him or look down on him. I just have to watch out for my brother. If I have a weakness in a certain area, I need to make sure that I'm not shaming myself. I'm simply allowing myself room to grow. See what I mean? And Christians really are masters of the guilt trip. Masters of it. On themselves, on others. I mean, Christians kind of just guilt trip everybody. And I don't know about the rest of the world because I spent most of my time in the church world. But anyways. But really great with pride is these things here. Listen to criticism. Even if somebody is telling you it from a bad attitude, even if it just seems like it's completely false, just listen. there's a what was it that thing that I used to say to the worship team all the time? There's a nugget of truth in most everything that people say. If you can just allow it to see past your hurt feelings, to see past their bad attitudes, you might actually find it. And then be accountable. Oftentimes we want to believe that we're our own bosses and everything, but God never created people to be their own bosses. I know in our culture, independence is like the number one thing. But in God's word, that's not really the number one thing. In fact, it's more of a healthy dependence. God doesn't expect us to be so dependent that we don't provide for ourselves, don't provide for our families, don't take care of business. But He does expect us to be dependent on the fact that although we are working for the things that God wants us to do, we are also trusting in Him to provide. It's not, for instance, I look for a job, I find a job, I work as hard as I can, but it's not, I don't need to think that it's me that's providing for me. I need to realize God provided for the job, God's providing the money. If I lose the job, God will still provide because I need to do what's right, but also trust that He's God still. So be accountable. Pastors really, most of the time, are almost dooming themselves to fail if they don't have accountability partners. People who will keep checking in on them, who they can, we need that in life. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago with the last thing. And then also the last thing there was, a disciplined, one of the things is that we do with drug addicts when we're trying to get them out of drugs is we have them do set routines throughout their day. They get up at a certain time, they shower, they shave, they brush their teeth, they go to work. Now, is there anything special in shaving and taking a shower? No, not really, but it's that idea of a disciplined lifestyle. So, they've lived so long in this druggy mentality where they just do whatever they want whenever they want. It breaks that mentality down. See what I mean? And with pride, it works very similar too. Rather than I'm my own boss, I get to kind of make my own rules as I go. It's that disciplined living of I don't get to make my own choices. I don't get to just go off and do my own thing. And it kind of breaks down that idea of I'm independent. Did I skip my notes, guys? Let me double check on this. Just checking. Hold on. Okay, good. Didn't miss anything. Newborns, the way that they breathe. Okay. So, let's kind of have a little bit more discussion on this. This is kind of like an analysis for yourself, but I would greatly appreciate, if we talked it out as well. Have you ever been in a place of power? You don't have to share if you don't want to. Does anybody want to? Yes, you do want to share?
No, it's a yes or no question, right?
Yes, and then just, elaborate on what the position was.
Well, just at my job.
Okay, what would be the position? Like, what is it that you have power with?
Being in charge of the house.
Okay. Is the house ever lip off to you, or? I'm just kidding. So in that position, what things are expected of you?
Make sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Seems easier than it is.
Communicate any changes to everybody. Schedule things.
Make the chart that you don't save, and then you save it as that wrong thing, so you just have to keep going back and remaking it every month? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Anybody else? Position of power that you want to share about?
When I was a trainer at Xerox.
Okay. Want to share about that?
Well,
pretty much my boss never checked up on me because he just kind of left it to me. So I really could have got away with anything that I wanted, honestly. But
We're recording. Don't commit to any felonies. I mean, admit to any felonies.
I had to make sure, I taught certain things on certain days and that they got the level of education they needed to go on films. I was I would get a gift card once a month to buy things for the class. I could have easily bought things for me. And just different things like that. I had access to different things.
Okay. Anybody else want to share? It's only 2 people left. Let me speed this along. Do you want to share?
I don't think I've ever been in a place of power.
Okay, alright, that's fine.
Not that I can think of at least.
Both at this church and at our last church.
Okay.
I led youth there, and we would go in, and a lot of times we would get stuff ready before the pastor even got there, and that get lights going, heat on, and stuff, and kind of make sure that stuff was where it needed to be.
Okay. Anything out of the ordinary that you had to do? In this position or that position, either or?
No, not really.
Have you ever organized or planned an event? You guys want to share about something to do with that? He doesn't want to so bad he's choking on it.
Well, most of the time when I plan an event, nobody shows up.
But yeah, I'm right there with you.
Well, when I planned my whole trip to our mission trip to China, I had to do everything from scratch. Nobody was able to be beside me to help me or tell me what to do. And then also, when I went to North Carolina for my training, I kind of had to plan out that whole class because it had to be a little bit different.
Pause. Did you say North Korea?
Carolina.
Okay, I was like, I don't remember you ever being in North Korea.
Right.
I remember.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead and keep going.
Because it was the first. We're starting up a call center there, so I had to kind of rearrange it for them. Plus, we were on a certain time limit, so I had to kind of plan it differently than what I normally do.
Okay. Anything else? What are you most proud of? Nicole, let's start with you. What are you most proud of?
Honestly, graduating high school.
Yeah? What makes you proud about that?
I never thought I would do it.
Oh, okay.
Because I did so bad, with elementary and middle school, I didn't think I was going to be able to graduate on time.
Okay. Gracie?
Come back to me.
Okay. Ben? You gotta be proud of something.
Come back.
Come on back to me. Sorry, go ahead.
Come back to me. I think it's Gracie's turn.
Now that we've come full circle. And Chuck, I know you got something. You don't?
I know.
Seriously? Man, oh man. A, not seeing Ben dead yet. You gotta be pretty proud of that because with that awkward Regis nonsense, I really thought that you maybe were going to drop off. Are we not joking about that yet?
I don't know. I'll just say this. I got the most persuasive speech award in public speaking.
Okay. And why was that important to you?
Okay, wait. No, let me switch it.
Okay.
Because I can't come up with something to that.
Okay. That wasn't very persuasive of you.
I really was proud of. When I was like 14 or something, I went to Jason abandoned me at this camp thing for rednecks.
Okay.
I won this shooting competition and they gave me a BB gun and stuff.
Oh, that's cool. And why did that make you feel proud?
Because I was better than all the other kids.
Haha, yeah. Grace? I'd come back to you.
I don't know if it's the thing I'm most proud of, but it's one of the things that I'm proud of myself about is when I rose so much money for Speed of Light,
Uh-huh.
and it was like a little over $1,000. And the reason why I'm most proud about it is because I was the first kid in the AG to actually raise over $1,000 by myself for Speed of Light.
They were so proud of her, they gave her a Speed of Light vehicle.
And then it encouraged, one other guy did it that year as well, and then it encouraged other kids to do it more. And they had like a little special ceremony and stuff for us.
Okay. Check.
I really don't know. I mean, I'm awesome at everything, so.
Okay. What is the difference between power and authority, do you guys think? Or is there one? Good point.
Let me give this as an example.
Okay.
It may be way out there, but we'll see. Let's say a mob boss. Okay? Let's start there.
Okay.
A mob boss has power, right?
Sure.
Right? And he could get stuff done, right?
Okay.
But he has to use that power. He doesn't have the authority to get stuff done. He just has the power to get stuff done.
Okay. Like, what do you mean that he doesn't have the authority? Because, I mean... What do you mean he doesn't have the authority?
Well, like, he can control the city or whatever, you know. We'll say the kingpin. He can control the city or whatever, you know, but he has to do it through his forces. Like, he doesn't have the authority like someone who
Right.
would be like in the mayor's office or something would have to get stuff done.
Right. I gotcha.
If that makes sense.
Okay. Okay. Any other thoughts? If you guys didn't understand what Chuck was saying, he's basically saying like power is the ability to do something, and authority is more of the right to do something. Is kind of what he was saying.
Oh, okay.
I reworded it a little bit different, but it's close enough. Basically. Anybody else have anything to go with that, or contradictory view? Anything? You guys are so quiet tonight that it sucks.
What? We've been talking up a storm. I agree with Chuck.
A few things that I want to mention. We've talked about the way that pride can be hidden as either hurt or criticism, those kinds of things. Not willing to let things go, but really pride can be hidden either way, not just as hurt, but really pride can be hidden in our lives in a lot of different things. As you think about the different things that you are in places of power, sometimes it's hard to realize, but no matter where we are in life, we are in a position of power. You know what I mean? We're always in positions of power. Sometimes we're not in ultimate power. For instance, if you've always lived with your mom and dad, you're never going to have power over them, especially not when you're in their house. You know what I mean? But with that being said, you do still have power of some sorts. You know what I mean? Does that kind of make sense? Like Gracie right now has power. I don't know if you realize this or not, but she has power in a lot of different things. She has power over Micah and Teresa. She has power over my choices. I can't simply make a choice. We're married, so she has power there. She has power as a children's leader, children's church leader, pastor, whatever you want to call it at church. She has, power in a lot of different things, and sometimes we just kind of overlook it as, there's the important people in power, and then there's nobody else. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm not running the company, I'm doing nothing. And the truth is that we're all in positions of power, and as you think back in your life, the different opportunities and impacts you've had on other people, and as you start thinking about the different things that you're proud of, start realizing that the attitude of pride can really be hidden in a lot of different areas. You see what I mean? Did you guys get what I'm kind of going at, or a little bit? We'll see if I can reword this a little bit. Okay, so we talked about, have you ever been in a place of power? And if you think back on that time that you were in power, I'm sure you can realize a few times when either you may have abused your power, or you had I think Gracie brought up the thing of how she could have more so. We all kind of abuse our power in some degree, but does that kind of make sense maybe now? A little bit more. Now I reworded it a little bit. And then also, when you do things like organize an event, you realize that you have power in different areas, and sometimes when we have power, we can also remember the pride that we showed through that power. See what I mean? Like, for instance, let's say Gracie organizes this event, and it just goes over great. Actually, that did happen. VBS. Gracie organizes VBS. It goes over great. And, that can cause, if she's not careful, that can cause her feelings in herself, of, look how great I did. When it's actually God that did it, we just simply carried it out. You know what I mean? And obviously, we can. What do you guys think about this, though? We can feel proud of what we have accomplished without being prideful. What do you guys think of that? Like in that example, Gracie is proud that she has done something with the VBS that impacted kids, but not necessarily prideful in her abilities. Do you think that kind of a distinction exists?
I think there's a very thin line for it. Mm-hmm. That it can really easily turn into the other thing.
Mm-hmm. And why is it important that we're scanning this so clearly here in this analysis? Why is this important? Keep thinking, but I just want to throw out one idea, because a lot of televangelists and that kind of stuff are talking about the power in you. We're talking about being proud of what you are and all these different things. And I've tried throughout the course of this study to help us accept ourselves without being prideful in ourselves. And so I think that drawing this close of a line here in this discussion on pride is important because of that. Do you guys have any other ideas? No? Okay. Were you going to say something?
I just can't think of the word I'm trying to think of.
Just say supercalifragilistic. What?
Well, pride you deal with every day in a lot of situations.
Yeah.
I mean, like, even growing up, my parents were always saying how proud they were of me of doing different things and such. And then you turn to the opposite kid of where their parents don't want their kids to be prideful, so they didn't praise them on anything they did,
Right.
And so you really have to find a middle ground and not cross over the thin line, like Chuck was saying.
So is giving someone praise necessarily bad?
I don't think so, no. But I think...
How you say it?
Yeah, you have to give them the right kind of praise.
Okay. If you guys remember, Serena talked about this topic a few months ago, before August, I want to say. I think it was still in summer sometime. And she talked about the way that in John it talks about the way that Jesus says, or John says of Jesus that he didn't need that because he validated himself. You remember that? He knew what was in man, and I can't remember the passage right this very second. It's been a long day, guys. I'm really sorry. I do remember it's in John. And she was talking about accepting the compliments people give you from the attitude rather than the word that they're saying. See what I mean? Like if someone says, I'm proud of you for graduating high school, rather than accepting the attitude of pride and that kind of self-inflated thing, you can still accept the thing that they were trying to encourage you. See what I mean?
Yeah.
You guys remember that when she was talking about that? It was a few months ago. And I think I was gone because I was camping or something. I don't remember. But it was a couple months ago. But also I want to throw out the idea that also Christians don't have a right to choose who to forgive. Don't forget that as you know, we go on throughout life and throughout the different things that we're doing. Excuse me, that we really don't have that right to choose who to forgive and who not to forgive. And that sometimes that can lead to pride in and of itself, is just having this idea that I get to choose. This person I don't feel is worthy of my forgiveness, but this person is. You know, we just don't really have that right in and of ourselves. But yeah, remember that. Think back on the times in your life when you had pride, when you had power, when you had pride, and start noticing, like, do you see it anywhere in your life now that's creeping up? See what I mean? Because pride has a way, if we're not constantly paying attention to it, of coming back. We have to constantly pay attention to pride because it keeps coming back up in our lives, and it keeps changing who we are. So the question of the week is, how do you combat pride? How do you combat pride? We combat greed with giving, remember? We combat lust with discipline and rules, right? With that structure, not just allowing ourselves to go off crazy. You know, my mom was on this diet once. It was the Weight Watchers diet. And one of the things that she kept saying about the Weight Watchers diet was, you don't have to give up everything. You just have to limit everything. You know what I mean? It wasn't like the Atkins where you had to, throw out these essential foods. Atkins was great for losing weight very quickly, but the thing is it didn't give your body what you needed. And then as soon as you went back to a healthy diet, you'd gain a lot of weight all back. So it didn't really solve the problem. But Weight Watchers addressed it in a whole different way. They said, okay, rather than trying to make you kill yourself by avoiding everything, we're going to simply allow you to limit it to healthy portions. Healthy portions. I was watching when Gracie was in the hospital, while she was over there, huffing and puffing, trying to push trees out and all that. I was watching the TV and just kidding. But I was watching this show. I think it was on TLC or something like that. I don't remember the channel, but anyways, and there was this really overweight guy who was, I think he was like 800 pounds.
Oh, that it's like my 600-pound life.
Yes, and he had to get down to 650, and so he tried and everything, and he ended up gaining 12 pounds, and so he got so discouraged. And throughout the course of this, anyways, he learned how to completely rearrange his whole life, his whole lifestyle, and he was able to, without surgery, by himself, get from 800 down to 650 by himself. And then they had this weight loss surgery that did something with his intestines. I don't remember what. Where it was easier for him to lose weight. Don't ask me, I'm not a doctor. It was just some weight loss surgery. And he was able to drop even more. By the end of this episode that ended, he was like 500-something pounds. Wow. So he had lost like 300 pounds. That was just incredible. And that's kind of the idea behind the whole less thing. You don't have to go without. We like to go on extremes. We overindulge and then we feel bad, so we try to, I'll never do it again. I'll cut it out completely. And that's why when I was talking about pornography, it's unrealistic to say, if you've been on pornography for years, to then say, I'm going to be off of it overnight. I mean, it's great that you want to try, it's just not really going to happen. So you need to take the necessary steps. Will you fail a few times in doing that? Yes, but in the process, you'll grow stronger and you'll be able to get off of it. That's why I was talking about the whole thing with going from pornography to like cartoon pornography to maybe like XXX stories to maybe, weaning yourself off rather than going cold turkey. And that way you actually have success. And then when you stop, you really will stop. It's actually how I got off of pornography was I weaned myself off into more mild forms of pornography until I was able to stop. And I think we do that with a lot of things. We kind of feel so guilty and shamed about the failures that we've done that rather than creating an actual plan that will work, we try to go Atkins. and it doesn't work, you know. And then when we inevitably fail, because we do, you know, we kick ourselves in the face for it. And it's just like, well, it's not healthy. So you know, with pride, how do you combat pride? And that will be the question of the week. So any questions? No? Okay, guys.